Hey everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective for the week of January 27, 2019. I am your host, Drew. I am joined by Mr. Rainy Day himself, Will.
What's going on, Drew?
Not much, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. You?
Oh, I'm surviving.
Good.
But yeah, it's pretty good. There's a freaking flood going on out here in Connecticut, and it's kind of crazy. I almost swam my way home. But
yeah, it's rough.
We're here, and we have a very special guest today that's joining us. We're looking forward to sitting down with Joe in just a couple moments. But first, let me just get all of our business out of the way, and then we'll bring Joe in. Follow us on the web, and check out our show at WDGRPodcast.libsyn.com. That's our main hub. Most of our links are there. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at WDGRPodcast. Also, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're just about everywhere. If somebody wants to follow you, where would they be able to find you, Will?
Will_Gear.
And you can follow me at ScionStorm. And Will, I'm going to hand things over to you at this point because my understanding is you and this guest go way back.
We do. So let's introduce him. His name is JoeDonuts.
Hello.
Also known as JoeDonuts.
Thanks for having me.
So how do you guys know each other?
Well, I remember meeting Joe via Xbox Live back on like the 360. So This was probably 2010, 2011, that kind of time period. Mm-hmm. I think it was, right, Joe?
Right around when Bad Company 2 came out?
Yeah. I think we were playing a little bit of Black Ops at the time, and then I noticed that Tio, one of our other friends, kind of started veering off and playing Bad Company 2, and I didn't know much about Battlefield at all. And that's how I met you and one of our good friends, Raph, as well.
Yeah, actually, I think it was a bit after Bad Company 2 came out, because I remember there was quite a long time where I was pushing pretty hard for that game, and everybody was playing Call of Duty instead. And I was like, I think I got the better game here. You guys should probably be playing this.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that, and it certainly was a better game.
What was better about that game?
Well, I mean, I think Joe and I could talk about that game for hours, but I think to kind of put it simply, it was just more refined. It was just kind of, it felt more fair. The graphics were just better. Everything about that game just felt more raw and real, and I think Joe would agree on that.
Yeah, and there was a sense of freedom to it as well, because there was some really good destruction in that game. So, if you see someone go running behind a wall, you just take out your grenade launcher and you blow up in the wall and chase after them.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, the sounds, too, like the sound was just incredible. Like, it was just, like, if you had a headset, you could hear everything.
Yeah. That was a game that I never got around to playing. I mean, I was never really a big Call of Duty fan either, but I think at that time I was playing, if any of those games, it would be Call of Duty. But I was more Gears of War. When that came out, I was a big Gears of War fan.
But yeah, that's how we met. We just kind of met, via, I think it was Tio, actually, that kind of brought me into that circle of Joe, Raph, and some other people. Yep. And we just kind of, hung out on live and played a ton of Battlefield and some other games here and there. And then we decided that it was time to meet. So I had driven down to Bridgeport. I don't even remember what year it was, probably like maybe 2013, somewhere around there. Yeah. And I jumped on a ferry, parked my car right on the ferry, and just, got off. I think it was at I think it was in Port Jeff.
Yep,
and
Port Jeff Station.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful day. Like, I remember it was like in the middle of summer, sun was shining. I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I've never, driven my car in a ferry, number one. And then two, I was in like a new area that I've never been. So we met up and we did a bunch of things. We ate spaghetti with meatballs and jelly that I remember Brie made for us. That was a first. We did a staple.
Hold on.
Okay.
What?
I'll let Joe explain this recipe.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a play on that. The idea is peanut butter and jelly with spaghetti, but really what it is like sort of like a peanut, like pad thai kind of a thing with like a sweet jelly sauce. So it's a little bit higher brow than it sounds.
So my next question is, did you guys eat this like Lady and the Tramp? Or
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, why wouldn't you?
If you're eating spaghetti and meatballs together, why wouldn't you, right?
Right, yeah. So we ate that. We went to Trader Joe's. We did a bunch of things. Like, we just kind of hung out, and we didn't even do that much gaming. I know he kind of introduced me to Asura's Wrath, which is one of my favorite games of all time, thanks to Joe. And we played some Street Fighter 4, I believe. And that's all I can really recall. Was there anything else, Joe?
I don't think so. It was just a lot of hanging out, taking that silly picture of us with the Bad Company logo on it.
Oh, jeez. I need to see this. You'll have to show me.
We'll have to dig that one out of the archives because it's definitely in archives.
But yeah, definitely good timing on that for Azura's Wrath being around.
Yeah, it was what a game. I remember I was intrigued by the game just in general, and it was always kind of like on my radar, and I had Joe loaded up because he had it, and I was just blown away. Like, we played, I think you had like a pretty large TV at the time.
Yeah, I think I had something like a 32-inch or something like that. It wasn't anything crazy.
Huh. For some reason, I remember it being on something large, but either way, it was just a stunning opening. And, long story short, we just kind of clicked, and, we hung out at Comic-Con recently as well. But, without trailing off, that's how we met.
That's interesting. Very cool. Very cool. It's, up to this point, all the conversations that we've had with guests have been people that we've met face-to-face first and then got to know each other over gaming. And you guys sound like it took a different path where you met through gaming and then you got to know each other face-to-face.
Yeah, it was unique because I think Joe would agree, and you would as well, Drew, that most of the time when you meet somebody online, the last thing you're doing or thinking is, I need to like meet this person for real.
Yeah,
because
no,
you're just...
I don't want to know nobody. Fuck that.
You probably don't even want to talk to them.
Yeah. Like, you put that person in this box, like, oh, no. They're like an online friend only.
Well, you got to keep in mind that I grew up in the days of, like, AOL dial-up, and my mother struck the fear of God in my heart because, like, God forbid I talked to somebody, and I gave, like, there was this one girl that I was talking to for a while.
In a chat room?
And now I was, like, 13, 14 years old, and they wanted to, like, send me something. So I gave my address. This is somebody I've been talking to for months and months and months, and I don't even remember what they sent me. But like when it arrived, my mom was the one that got the mail that day, and she was furious. Like, how dare I give like our home address out to somebody? She thought like they were going to drive up here and like kidnap me or something. Meanwhile, I've been like doing martial arts since I was 4 years old, so I could probably take care of myself.
Right. You're like, Mom, I'm a brown belt, okay? Just chill.
But seriously. Oh, man. Anyway, so Joe, let's pivot into talking about you. Nobody gives a shit about me. What are you playing right now, man?
Oh, man. So I looked at what I've been playing the last week or so, and I kind of wish that I had played something a little bit different for this, but for the last week I've been playing the Spyro Reignited trilogy.
How you liking it?
I mean, it's pretty great, actually. I mean, it's it's a pretty straightforward platforming collectathon type of game, but I never really played Spyro when I was younger. I think I played a demo of it. I think there was a demo disc on PlayStation 1. I had a few different games on it, and I tried probably the first level of Spyro, but so this is really my first time with it, and I think it's a pretty impressive game in the sense that it holds up today. There's nothing really. I'm sure they cleaned up a few things here and there, but there's nothing really dated about it in terms of the controls and the gameplay. It's like it's a pretty simple game, but it doesn't have anything janky or busted about it, which is great.
Never really got into the Spyro games when they first came out, but I remember finding, I think it was one of the ones for GameCube at Goodwill. And I'm like, yeah, it's a couple bucks. Let me give this a shot. And they have aged pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough when you have an older game, especially something that's, heading into the 3D realm. Sometimes those games just don't really translate to the newer generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the other thing that's great about it is there's not really a lot of dialogue or cutscenes or anything, or really any like BS. It's pretty much just straight up levels and collecting stuff. So it's also not a bad game if you like throwing on a podcast while you're playing something.
Okay.
So I did a lot of that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I feel like there's not many games that you can do that, so that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's like that, and after I've played like 1,000 hours of Destiny, I'm cool with putting on a podcast while I'm playing.
Oh, wow. So that's the other game that you're juggling with Spyro then?
That's the game I'm juggling with everything, pretty much. Like,
okay.
That's always on and off. I won't play it for a week at a time, but it's always around.
Yeah. So when you say that you're playing Destiny, I'm assuming the second one with the new DLC?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's sort of this trickle of they have this annual pass that they introduced, which kind of you pay a fee up front and you get sort of this trickle of weekly content that they've been doing. So
interesting.
Getting through that. And
how much does that cost?
I think it was $30.
And that's for a full year?
It's for 9 months.
For 9 months, okay.
Yeah.
So when you're saying like trickle of content, are we talking stages? Are we talking like just weapons and emotes and things like that? Or
it's a little bit of everything. It's different from past expansions in that there isn't really like heavy story content. Like they don't really have story missions per se. A lot of the storytelling for the expansion is in like lore cards that you unlock as you play, and you can read those. And there's a vendor at the tower, which is like the hub for the game. You can talk to them and get a little bit of context off of that. But for the most part, what it's been is each week they introduce a new forge, which is this new activity where you go in with 3 people and you kill a whole bunch of enemies, and some of them are highlighted in blue. When you kill those, they drop like a little ball that you pick up, and you have to dunk it into a forge in the center of the level. So it's sort of like a little basketball thing where you're dunking.
It's very interesting. I'm kind of surprised to see them bringing a more of a sports-like element to Destiny. We all know how Will feels about sports, so
oh God, yeah.
We know he won't be playing that anytime soon. But
no.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of bringing in more of the mechanics that you'd see in a raid, and taking some of that a little bit.
Which raid was it that had the was it King's Fall?
The hidden basketball court?
No. Yeah.
Oh my God. What is this, GTA now?
No, there was a raid where like certain people had to have orbs, and I think it was King's Fall.
Well, yeah. There's the part where you're running around on the invisible platforms.
Yeah.
And you have to dunk on the boss.
Yeah,
a lot of
basically.
dunking in Destiny.
Seems that way.
I had no idea. I mean, I'm so like just unfamiliar with that franchise or series that I can't even really comment.
Yeah, I mean, if at the outset it's really just first-person shooting, just running through missions and unlocking your abilities and leveling up and stuff. And as you get towards the end game and you get into the raids and stuff like that, the mechanics they introduce are a lot more complicated.
Yeah, the raids are always more fun, but it was always challenging for me to find people that were available when I was available. And I was never really fond of going out and trying to find like randoms or a group of people that I just didn't know on a personal level. I just, to me, like, I still prefer the days of like couch gaming. And if I'm not couch gaming with these people, I'd like to be, playing on the internet with them. And if I can't do that, then I'd rather not play with anybody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Joe, that's how it was in Battlefield, too. Remember, like, if we didn't have a squad of people we knew, like, it was a major difference.
Oh, yeah. If we had a squad of 4 and it was all people we knew and we were all communicating, we were the entire team. It didn't matter that there were, like, 12 other people on the team. We were just dominating.
Mm-hmm.
It gets to a point, too, where, like, you've been playing with people long enough, and you don't even need to say anything. You just kind of get this instinct.
Yeah.
You predict each other's moves and like where they're going to be, and it's totally different, man. I really miss the squad life.
Hashtag squad life.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh goodness. So Joe, let's rewind back. Tell us about how you got into video games in the first place, man.
I mean, my intro to games is pretty typical for someone my age. So, my dad got an NES and probably played it more than I did. And, I remember playing Mario as my first game. And it's funny. I think the thing I remember the most about playing it at the time was that I thought jumping over the first hole was difficult.
Okay.
Which seems kind of mind-blowing now.
I mean, for some of us, it's pretty difficult still.
Yeah.
I won't even...
Well, I mean, he is a fat plumber.
I'm so bad at Mario games that half the time I'm the one that's falling in the first pit. But anyway, go on.
But yeah, so, the NES, that kind of stuff, and... from there turned into a diehard Sega kid.
Okay.
In kind of a gross way in retrospect, but at the time I was, at the time it was like the console war. Mm-hmm. And I had to be the underdog, so I was
You were that guy.
Kid. Yep. So I had everything.
Was it that everybody had the NES and you're just like, no, screw this, I'm going to be the Sega guy? Or like what was the thought process there?
I'm not sure what triggered it. I mean, it probably started just because I liked Sonic and the Genesis at the time, and that kind of spoke to me. And then going on from there, Sega introduced a lot of other game consoles, and they're pretty much all failures, but it was that underdog thing again. And it was also cool to have something like a 32X or a Sega CD and play those games that pretty much no one played.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you're right. I think the Sega, now that you mention it, really was kind of like an underdog or almost like a cult following, because it was either Nintendo or Sega, and Sega just kind of had that reputation, I feel like, where it was like this, I don't know, it was just like the other breed of people, the other breed of gamers.
Yeah, especially after the Genesis kind of fell off.
So what were some of your favorite games on the Genesis?
I would say Streets of Rage, for sure. Streets of Rage 1 and 2. Those are great, just side-scrolling brawler kind of games. Toe Jam and Earl. This is like crazy now to think about, but it's like an early roguelike kind of game. And there wasn't really, there were games called like based off of Rogue and all that on PC, but the idea of sort of like this approachable roguelike game back then was completely alien. So, it's at the time it just seemed like a fun game where you're these like rapping cartoon characters opening presents and like, trying to get to the next level to find all the ship pieces. But nowadays it seems like really way ahead of its time.
So what was roguelike about it?
So the environments were randomized, and they kind of built out as you explored. And so you would get to an edge, and maybe the edge wouldn't build up, or it would become a bridge that would connect to the other side of the area. Okay. And then in addition to that, there were all these presents you could collect, and they all had question marks on them until you opened them, and you didn't know what they were going to be. So it's sort of like that idea of like the potion that might poison you or it might heal you. You don't really know until you try it, and then once you've tried it once, you know for the rest of the run that's what that is. So you know what to do with it.
It's very interesting. I never spent any time with that particular game.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't have a Genesis, and my friends that did never got into that particular one. They were more into like, Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. So
yeah, the original is very cool, and it's also available on the 360. So I think it's backwards compatible with the Xbox One X, so you can play it on that.
Oh, cool.
Is that something they did for the live arcade?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was Sega Ages.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did a bunch of games through the Sega Ages. All the Sonics, Streets of Rage. But I'm sure I'm missing others too. I have a couple of them.
Yeah, there's actually a new Toe Jam and Earl game that's kind of based on the original that they had a Kickstarter for. That's been in development for forever. I'm still waiting for it to come out.
Oh wow!
What system is that going to be on?
I think PC, PS4, Xbox, pretty much everything.
Oh, cool.
Did you have Mortal Kombat 1 for Genesis?
I don't know if I myself owned it, but I did play a bunch of it.
I remember that game terrifying me at a young age.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely like, I saw that at an impressionable age.
Yeah, the funny thing about the Sega console, too, and I think we can all agree, it's such a plasticky, mushy, shiny, weird, like, system. Like, there's nothing, like, clean. There's no cut corners. There's no, like, snappy sounds. It's very mushy.
I mean, the Genesis had a volume knob on it.
The original one, yeah.
Did it really?
Yeah.
The Model 1 has a volume control and a headphone jack.
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't think Model 2 has any of that, and Model 3 is just it's garbage.
Yeah, there was nothing streamlined about the Genesis. I mean, even in the Nintendo, like the original Nintendo was at least basically like a fucking square.
Well, I think the like visual aesthetics of the Genesis were, we're faster, therefore we're better. And you don't see like fast cars shaped like squares. They have a lot of curves and elegance to them,
Yeah.
So I think that's how I've always felt it. It was like Genesis was trying to be the hot rod, and Nintendo was trying to be the sedan.
Yeah, they always had the black consoles. Everything was black until the Dreamcast.
Yeah, actually, well, the Saturn was gray in a lot of places too, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, the Japanese version of the Saturn. I don't know about the European version, but
that's a good point. I forgot about the JP version of that. So, Joe, you have a brother. Did you end up doing a lot of gaming with him as well?
No. Pretty much my whole immediate family didn't really take much of an interest in games, except for my dad would play with me sometimes and get into some really weird games like a lot of the like FMV games on Sega CD and stuff like that.
Huh.
Let's hold on. That's a rabbit hole I really want to go down right now.
Yeah, please, because I'm not familiar.
Tell me, you guys were like playing like Night Trap and all that stuff.
Not Night Trap.
Sewer Shark?
Alley.
Tomcat Alley. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like piss on things.
No. No. Tomcat was like a jet. It's like a Top Gun ripoff.
Oh. Immediately my mind just went into like this dirty, mangy, like, Tomcat just like pissing on fucking hot bags of garbage in like New York City alleys.
Yeah,
it's like, that sounds like a good game.
The prequel to Sewer Shark.
Yeah.
But yeah, just some weird FMV games.
So your father, it sounds like he was a gamer then, because he's the one that brought in the Nintendo. He would play these these weird, strange games with you on the on the Sega CD, and
I don't know that he was a gamer, but he definitely like connected with it at times. You
Okay.
know, and he always he would take an interest on his own sometimes. You know, he called me up one day. He's like, "Should I get a PS3 or an Xbox?" And I made an argument for Xbox at the time, I think, and he just got the PS3 anyway. And then he played Uncharted 2 for like, I don't know, 6 years or something like that. Never got through it, but
Jesus.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. That hits a little close to home, but go on.
It's like, get good, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did he stop playing it because he sucked at the game, or like something else get his attention?
A little of both. It's definitely a struggle getting through the game. He was, always kind of in that learning stage with the twin stick controls.
Yeah, that seems to be the downfall for a lot of people, I think.
Yep. So, yeah, he doesn't really play much anymore. I think his hands and joints and stuff aren't quite what they used to be, so...
Yeah.
I think last he played was GTA 5, and he was like, this is cool, but he kind of just, did the thing where you drive around and you accidentally run over half the neighborhood and shoot some people and get caught by the cops and die, and that's about
Busted.
it. Yeah.
Wow. I can't picture anybody, like any of my elders playing GTA.
Oh God, no.
So that you're off to a good start there, Joe.
It's like watching porn, like with like a parent. Like you don't do it.
Yeah, but he was very supportive about like, I wanted all this stuff, and he figured out a way to scrape the money to get together to get it for me. I had the whole Transformer trifecta mess of the Genesis, the Sega CD, and the 32X all jammed together.
Nice.
Probably one of the few people who had a 32X CD game, which was a game that was, I think it was a cartridge and a CD.
They only made a couple of those, too.
I don't even remember what game it was. Some crappy zombie game, but I think the whole novelty was that it worked with both things.
Weird.
Yeah. I'm looking up the was it Sega Mix? No, hold on.
Yeah, Sega definitely went through like a weird phase, and that was it right there. Like when they just started like stacking things.
Yeah.
Corpse Killer.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. As soon as I saw that up on this list,
it's kind of like an oxymoron of a title.
They did Corpse Killer, Night Trap, Fahrenheit, Slam City, Supreme Warrior, and Surgical Strike.
It's even more than I thought.
Yeah, 6 games.
Yeah, and I think all you do in Corpse Killer is like punch zombies. I don't even think you shoot them.
Huh.
And it's an FMV game too, so
yeah, it's just a whole bunch of QuickTime events basically.
Okay.
I want to press play in this YouTube video so bad, but I know it's going to fuck up the recording. All right, I'm sorry. Go on.
But yeah, I think the big moment for me where I really, gaming sort of transformed and became something that really meant a lot more to me than just, the fun and kind of the addiction of getting into games was with the Saturn, because you started to see more storylines and more kind of RPG type games. I mean, there were always RPGs, but I think they didn't grab me the same way, so I kind of just ignored them on the Genesis. And, here they were 3D, and that was exciting. And, some of the worlds, like in games like Panzer Dragoon and stuff like that, were very, very unique, and even today still feel unique.
Yeah, I feel like the Saturn is a very unique launch for Sega.
For sure.
That whole generation, though, to touch on the RPGs, I think there's a very large part of the gaming audience that is around our age, and they didn't have their very first experience with an RPG until the Saturn or the PlayStation or even the N64. You hear a lot of people who have been playing RPGs much longer than that talk very fondly about games like Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy V, but like if you weren't already into it, that generation of gaming, that 32-bit like those RPGs were just, it was a whole new world.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. I think Final Fantasy VII, just the timing on it was a big part of why people have such a fondness for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great timing.
Did you have a PlayStation 2 or?
Eventually, the thing that got me was I think I was in Toys R Us, and they had the demo of the first level of Metal Gear Solid.
Ooh.
And that was the one that just, I was like, holy shit, this is a lot cooler than what I'm playing.
What a memory.
So I was like, I need this. And yeah, at the time I was such a Sega kid that, like, you know, the Super Nintendo and both the PlayStation were kind of these things that I got eventually down the line, and I would get like a game or two that really, you know, excited me, and then that was about it. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid for sure was like, that was the shit at the time.
Game changer.
Yeah.
So what about that, like, was so revolutionary to you?
I think, you know, it was just the opening area that I got to play. So it was the idea of stealth and sneaking, you know, that whole tactical espionage thing seemed so unique at the time. I didn't even really have a sense of how much storytelling there was in the game until I got it.
I don't think anybody really did.
And then I think I spent, you know, it was almost like the Mario thing all over again, where I couldn't get over the first hole. I think I spent like 3 hours in that first area of that game, and it's not even a very long game.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that whole game is just very fond memories of playing that for the very first time. Like, it's just one of those things, like, it just leaves an impression on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like every gamer, too, like, saw that demo in some kind of store. Like, it was either Babbage's, it was Electronics Boutique, it was Toys R Us. Like, we all saw that demo, and we were just like, what is this game?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to remember if I saw it anywhere or not.
It was Babbage's for me on, like, a 13-inch TV.
Yeah, was it the one with the speakers built in?
Yep, speakers built in. There was, like, a DVD player built in. And they just had it, like, you know, facing, like, the entrance of the store. And it just, like, there was always, like, a group of people, like, watching this demo. And you would just see, like, Snake, like, running around, doing a bunch of different things. And everybody was just like, oh, dude, this game's going to be revolutionary. And it fucking was. Hugely so.
Now, Drew, when you said the TV with the speakers built in, were you referring to the GX TV?
I believe that's the one.
With
the
swinging doors swung out? Yeah.
It's a collector's item now.
You have one?
I had one. I don't have it anymore.
Oh, man, I wanted that so bad when I was a kid. I was lucky just to have a TV in my room in the first place, and I had to hit the damn thing and get it to work half the time.
Yeah, lot of memories of playing Streets of Rage and stuff like that on there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Every once in a while, I'll see in one of my collecting groups somebody posting one of those for sale. So I can keep an eye out for you if you'd like.
Sure. I mean, it's weird. I think I got rid of it at the time because I was like, I don't need this anymore. This is just silly. It's taking up space. And now, like, retro games have come back around on that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's challenging because, you know, we live in a society where everything is just getting smaller and smaller, you know, and that to go backwards in the opposite direction is really just, I don't know. It's tough to kind of get around.
Yeah,
it is.
We didn't know at the time that, you know, people were designing the games with the display in mind. Mm-hmm. So, you know, now that the displays are completely different technology, it doesn't look the same.
Right, it looks like shit most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting too because, you know, nowadays we have the technology to it feels weird saying this, but, you know, technology's come so far forward, and now we have to kind of go backwards to get the retro games to look as good as possible on these you know, flat screen TVs. And I mean, there's people that have spent hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on wires and upscalers and you know, things like that. You know, you spend $350 to $400 on a frame meister, or you look for the next best thing, and now all the wires that you have are no good, and you got to buy new wires for it. And then if you want to get the best possible picture, you got to mod your system, and that, if you don't have the knowledge on how to do that, that can cost, a couple $100 each system.
Oh, it's such an ordeal, man.
It really is. Like I have a PC Engine Duo that I've been wanting to mod, and because I can't play it right now, the system needs to be repaired too, and the guy quoted me at like $200. So
yeah, it sounds about right.
But anyway,
yeah, I'm in a tough spot now where I've got the Saturn and all these games I want to play on it that I haven't played in years, and I've got the component cables and a 4K TV to hook it up to. It's not going to look good.
Yeah, it's like curved and shit.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really do anything for you as far as a light gun goes, but I can recommend a RetroTink if you're looking for something to at least upconvert the signal so it looks better on a flat screen.
Right, yeah.
That's probably the most affordable option, and it'll work with your existing wires.
Link them up, Drew.
Curious about that and the OSSC.
The OSSC is a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it. The RetroTink is very, very, very bare bones.
Right.
I have a RetroTink. I don't have the OSSC, and I'm pretty happy with it. It does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
For the most part, but it's limited. Like you're not going to hook up systems past a certain generation.
Right. Part of me, I want to wait and see if they start upscaling for 4K TVs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't really picture, an NES game upscaled to 4K, but I'm sure somebody's done it.
It almost like takes away from that quality at that point.
Kind of. I mean, how much further can you get with blocks of color?
Right.
Well, I'll give you an example of how it can actually look pretty good. Is if you go and play Sonic Mania on a 4K TV, game looks pretty much like an old Sonic game, but it's actually in 4K.
But you're also benefiting from the processing power of the systems that you're playing on too. Like that game would not run on a Sega Genesis.
Right, but I think the image output is a similar sort of idea. Because the Sonic character still has those chunky pixels.
Right. I see what you're saying. That's another game I need to beat.
It's a great
Drew,
game.
not Drew, I'm sorry. Joe, you were saying, if we're following correctly here, it went NES, Genesis, obviously into Saturn. What was after that?
Dreamcast.
Okay.
Ooh. For a bit. That didn't last very long, but it was a great 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, because I could never be just normal, I went for the Xbox.
Okay.
Which was like, at the time, was basically like the Dreamcast 2, kind of. I mean, I think with the 360, you see that as sort of like a very mainstream console, like maybe one of the most mainstream consoles now. But the Xbox was not that at all. It was definitely like overshadowed by the PS2 and the GameCube.
And you could also anchor a boat with it too.
Well, weren't a lot of the developers on the Xbox part of the team that did the Dreamcast in America?
That I'm not sure about, but I wouldn't be surprised.
What was there was one guy who was running the whole thing, and he ended up leaving for EA.
Oh, Bernie Stolar.
No,
I think that was the one.
The bald dude, Drew?
The guy who tattoos games on himself all the time.
No, I'm thinking of somebody else.
I know who it is, Drew.
It's like something... Peter Moore.
Oh, Peter Moore. Okay.
Peter Moore.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. I was mixing up two people. I was thinking of Peter Moore.
Yeah, because
he's the one that tattoos stuff on himself.
Like Halo 2.
Yeah.
Does he? Did he?
I think it was just like a Flintstones Band-Aid kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your Dreamcast collection, or what you were playing on the Dreamcast then. That's a system that's very dear to my heart.
Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays probably one of the fondest memories I had was actually a game that a friend had, and it was Phantasy Star Online. which I didn't have, the internet set up for it, but a friend did. So, I'd spend the weekends at his house playing Phantasy Star Online and meeting a bunch of random weirdos and leveling up my little robot guy.
Oh yeah.
And
our friend Damien was a big fan of that game too. He put a lot of hours into that.
Oh yeah, he definitely did.
It feels like such an influential game now.
It does,
with stuff like Monster Hunter and even Destiny to an extent.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how important that game was, and the Dreamcast, really, in the landscape of online gaming.
For sure. Yeah, there are so many things with the Dreamcast that were way ahead of their time.
God, I love that system.
Even Shenmue, that's not really a great game, but it set the stage for a lot of great games after it.
Oh my God, the voice acting is so bad.
I always struggled to get into that game. I tried it a couple times and I could never really, find my groove with it, I guess.
I
think had the coolest outfit, though.
I think it did its job, you don't have to play it. It influenced Yakuza, and that's really all you need.
Yeah.
And you're a big Yakuza guy, aren't you, Joe?
No, I wouldn't say that. I've played a good chunk of Yakuza 0, and it seems very cool, but it's also a very time-consuming game, and there's 7 of them, at least, I think. So,
well, I feel like, you're a big Yakuza guy because you've played a portion of a Yakuza game and no one else on the planet plays those games. So, therefore, you're a Yakuza fan.
All right, I'll take it.
I played a Yakuza demo once. I'm a fan.
I've never heard anyone ever talk about that game except for Joe, and I think that's it.
I have a friend that was into those games. I don't know if he's listening, but
very niche.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah,
so.
and then Soul Calibur was the other big one.
Oh man,
that's Drew's baby.
Oh man, man.
I played Soul Calibur 1 for maybe 2 years straight.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Drew will wring out your ass so fast.
Dude, I used to play that with my buddies Brett and Jay. They would come over almost every single night. And keep in mind, we were out of high school at this point. So 19, maybe 20 at most.
Mm.
And we had jobs, but we would still stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning playing Soul Calibur.
Mm-hmm.
And we just pass the controllers back and forth. Oh man,
this game's flawed. That's like a Brettism, isn't it?
It is.
This game's flawed.
That was the only game that he never said that about, though, because that game was perfect in every fucking way.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, the amount of people that still try to find that game too, and the cost of it, sometimes astronomical.
The original Soul Calibur?
Oh yeah,
the original's not too bad.
Thought it was still pretty high.
No, that was a launch system or a launch game, so they made a lot of them.
Huh? Yeah, because I was trying to scour to find that game a few years back, I think, and I remember it being really expensive.
Hmm.
I mean, it might have changed now, but
price charting has it at about $15.50 for
oh my God
box.
So 15, it's changed.
Yeah, $15.
Because I remember it used to be over 100, when I looked back in the day.
Yeah, somebody was trying to pull something.
Was there?
I guess so.
A home port of the Soul? What was it? Soul Blade. The previous one.
Well, that only on the PlayStation.
Is that a rare one? Maybe that's.
Maybe I have that. I
Possibly.
have a copy of that. Soul Blade. No, that's not rare at all either. Same price.
All right.
Huh. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Now I can buy it.
Yeah. Soul Blade is not as polished as Soul Calibur was. Soul Calibur, I think, took the characters from Soul Blade and put them in this really just refined. I like to think of Soul Blade as basically Tekken with weapons, where Soul Calibur is when the game first started to take on its own identity and really kind of hone in its own fighting system.
Yeah, for sure. Soul Calibur, I mean, they figured that out quick, and then they never really kind of did anything better.
Yeah.
The 2 through 6 have their own charm, but they still can't compare to the original.
Have you played the newest one?
I've played it a bit. I'm still iffy on it. I think a lot of it seems cool, but there's that new sort of rock paper scissors mechanic that they added to the game that I'm very iffy about. It's like, I guess it's supposed to be a way to teach newcomers about how to play Soul Calibur, because it's boiling down, because the game is always rock paper scissors, you just don't really notice it,
right?
And this breaks it down into like a QTE basically. But I still kind of like the purity of the original game, and at that point it's like, why even keep making more of them if the first one's perfect?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, they're adding new characters, and the new characters just never live up to the same standards, I think, that were set in the first game. And then if you're taking this brilliant, fighting system and just dumbing it down more and more each time.
I gotta say, I love the second one too.
The second one was very good.
Like all three of them.
But it lost the balance that the first one had. I never played the third one, so I can't vouch for that.
Yeah, I never played the third one either.
Because at the time, so the third one only came out on PlayStation 2, correct? I know it wasn't on the Xbox.
I think it was just a PS2. The third, you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That's why I never played that one. But the second one, I think, took and expanded the characters and did a pretty positive job with the roster, but it lost the balance.
Maybe I just didn't notice.
The first game really was, in every sense of the word, that rock, paper, scissors kind of thing. And, each character had its strengths and its weaknesses, and I felt like in the second game, some of those were exploited by other characters way too easily.
So, Joe, you and I actually had the sort of unfortunate pleasure of playing the newest Soul Calibur at Comic-Con. And I say unfortunate because we were playing on probably like a 32-inch TV, but it was like about 3 inches away from our face.
Yep.
So it was not that, I don't know, it was not that intuitive. We didn't feel, or at least I didn't feel very sort of hands-on with it. But it was kind of cool, I guess, to kind of get in line and be able to play the game early.
Yeah, it was also on a fight stick, which I understand that's like the pure way to play a fighting game, but for Soul Calibur, I think that's a controller game.
It seems that way.
I'll agree with that.
And that's something I'm learning too, is that not every game is meant for a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I think a lot of people kind of, struggle with. They don't realize that certain games are just made for a certain type of control. There's a lot of fighting purists that are like, stick or get the fuck out. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it just doesn't work better that way. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
It's nice to have the option.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, it looks good, but, what else? Is it really worth getting? I don't know.
I mean, I think the thing that the newer games add to it is just the fun of the character creator. Mm-hmm. And going online and seeing all the ridiculous characters that people come up with and fighting them.
Yeah, apparently it got really out of hand, right? Like, people were making, weird blocks and shit.
Yeah, people would make a sphere, just a giant sphere, and you couldn't see what the character was doing within it. So it was just this sphere randomly hitting you.
Oh, my God.
So you couldn't identify what character it was based off of?
Yeah, or even if they were attacking or not.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like just the equivalent of YouTube comments just in a fighting game.
What was it? I saw somebody took some pretty crude steps with Voldo, made him thrusting in very sexual manners with apparatus.
Oh, that was quick. I couldn't believe that they didn't figure out like I would think if you make a character creator, you should have like a time to penis count.
That's it, man. Time the penis.
I don't know if I could put that in as the episode title. We might get banned.
But it's like the medical. It's like the medical term.
Oh God.
Like, you gotta have a playtester who's just responsible for
like
getting a dick in the game as quick as possible.
I mean, you're unleashing this game to like a pack of hyenas. Like they're gonna exploit it.
Guys, the TTP is 5.5 minutes. The TTP is 5.5 minutes.
That's crazy, man. But I'm not surprised. God. Like I said, humans and gamers, like, when it comes to that kind of stuff, when you give them like a character creation option, it's just like these horny, fucking sick hyenas that just kind of get on it.
Yeah, it's Mario Brothers 1-1, the first level of Doom, and a penis.
That's great.
So let's talk about your Xbox history there. So after the Dreamcast, you went to the Xbox.
Yep.
What kind of games were you playing at this point?
So Xbox was my introduction, not really to first-person shooters, but to like proper twin-stick first-person shooter controls with Halo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I played GoldenEye and I played Quake and Unreal on the Dreamcast, which were, sad kind of crappy versions of their PC counterparts, but I also didn't really play much PC games at the time, so...
all things considering, I thought they did a decent job with those.
Yeah, I think Quake 3 in particular was like pretty okay.
Yeah. That was a good game.
But yeah, so Halo was definitely like, I had a friend who he got the Xbox first and introduced me to Halo, and we started playing the campaign and split screen together, and that was it. I was like,
sold.
I need this. And that started a journey that pretty much continues to today with Destiny.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sticking with Bungie.
Yep. Yeah. I would say, like, out of any developer that's stuck around, Bungie's definitely my favorite.
Respectable.
So what about their games like keeps bringing you back?
I mean, at a very basic level, it just comes down to the controls. I think there's a lot of shooters that come out that just don't feel right on a console. I mean, you take something like PUBG. It's like a huge game right now, and I've played that on PC, and I actually, I'm really bad with the keyboard and mouse kind of first-person shooting thing, but that game got me to really like get used to it and respect it, and be like, this is actually a really cool way to play for like a really tactical kind of game like this. But then I went and played the Xbox version, and you can't aim at all in that game, and it doesn't make any sense why that, like, fundamental aiming controls on a console game aren't just like, it's not just a button that they press basically, like, it's just a library that's built into the consoles already that they can just use.
Yeah, this is a good question. Like, why isn't that thing? I think with the Xbox One, Microsoft sort of intended on doing that, though.
Yeah, I don't. It might come down to the fact that you play PUBG over like really long distances, so you're not having the same types of encounters that you are in like a Halo game.
Right.
Because I mean, like, fundamentally, the way those games control is the way it is because of the way the game's designed. Not just because it's a first-person shooter, but because the maps are a certain size and the weapons are a certain way. So, like the other series that did a good job of doing its own thing is like the Call of Duty games. Like those, I find control very well.
They do. It's all they're almost like arcade-ish.
Yeah.
Have they kept basically the same controls from every Call of Duty, or do they revolutionize them?
I mean, outside of things like wall running and like other additional mechanics, I don't think they've really done a lot with them or it's like it's so subtle that you don't notice it, and you just go into the next game and you think, oh, this feels great.
Yeah, like if you take Modern Warfare 2 and you compare it to like Black Ops 1, it's like Modern Warfare 2 super arcadey, super snappy, super smooth, and then Black Ops has like a little bit more like almost grit to it. Like even in the controls, I mean they're fluid, but like you can definitely tell that they, you know, it's a different. I believe it was a different studio behind Black Ops than it was for Modern Warfare 2. It definitely was.
Yeah.
That's always fascinated me, you know, how a different developer can take the same title and essentially make two different feeling games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's just interesting, you know. I don't really have anything else to add with that.
But yeah, then I
hey,
think,
it is what it is.
you know, Halo also had going for it those like big open environments, and it had that. I think it's the second level of the game is the one where you kind of get let loose out into the, like, it's not really an open world, but it's a big enough environment that you're like, you know, it's enough to like kind of take you aback and be like, oh shit, this is a big giant field. And then there's, you know, these alien drop ships coming in from all sides, and you kind of have this real like Hollywood style like war encounter that feels very unique, and it wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before, and that's just like really fun to play over and over again and do on like the higher difficulties.
Did you ever do any like LAN parties or any local gaming like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. We totally did the thing like you know, stringing LAN cables all over the house to like whatever TVs were available and trying to get as many people as we could.
Nice.
Unravel the Ethernet, dude.
I was actually in a few Halo 1 tournaments back then too.
Oh, that's cool.
Really?
Yeah. It was kind of funny. My parents took me out, I think, to Queens for a tournament, and it was like a weekend thing, and I think they were expecting me to just, you know, do the first day and get knocked out and be like, oh, hey, I had fun, and ended up like qualifying for the second day, and they're like, oh shit, now I gotta drive him back out to Queens again.
Yeah, so I gotta go back.
Sorry, Mom and Dad.
You boys killing it.
Yeah, and then I got eliminated very quickly after that, so it was kind of unfortunate. But then I think the next time I did a tournament, it was on Long Island, and it was like a local tournament. And the same people who wrecked me in Queens were there. That's like, how great. Why am I even here? I should just leave.
Oh, fuck. They're here.
I was totally thinking, I'm like, it's Long Island. Nobody's that good at Halo here.
So one of the questions that we had written down was the gaming scene in Long Island. Would you say that kind of describes some of it, or is there more to it than that?
I mean, at the time, there was that. I think nowadays, at least for me, it's a little bit harder to come across. You know, I do most of my gaming online or just at home. And I think the biggest change more recently is that I'm seeing a lot of like retro shops opening up, which is cool. You know,
we're gonna have to take a trip, Drew.
I've been to the one in Levittown, Video Game Trading Post.
Oh yeah, I haven't been there yet, but I've
it's
heard
nice.
of it.
It's small. It's a very tiny like actual like physical space that is literally ceiling to floor, like games. Like every single possible crevice that they could put a video game, there's a fucking video game.
That's cool.
It's amazing, and the guys there are wonderful. So I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I should probably take the opportunity now to give a shout out to my retro shop of choice. It's Game On. It's in Miller Place in Smithtown over here.
Nice.
There's the guy who owns the store is really great. You know, he does a lot of stuff with kids, and like, you know, they have days where they get a lot of kids there and playing games and stuff, and he does a lot of, you know, good charity local work with the community.
Good deeds.
And stuff. Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, he's got a really great selection of games and stuff there.
Hey, you got to train them young, you know?
I'm in the middle of looking up how far this is from Nikki's parents' house.
Uh-huh.
You're
like, Nikki, I'll be right back.
I have done that before. Like we go out there for a couple days, and she's sitting around talking with the family. They're watching TV, and I'm like, I'm bored. I'm gonna go take a ride. And she's like, all right, I'll see you. I'll come back with $100 worth of retro games. So it's about an hour from her. Anywhere, well, depending on traffic. Yeah, about 40 minutes to an hour. So, LIE, fuck that road. Anyway, man, that's awesome though. It's good to know that you have a good local shop near you.
Yeah, because it was all just a wasteland of GameStops for a while.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's like Mattress Firm. Like there's like 18 on one street.
I mean, I think our local mall had a GameStop, an electronics boutique, and a Planet Comics, which was essentially a GameStop with comic books, all in one store.
Wow.
And then, like, just outside of the mall, they had a Funko Land.
Oh, jeez.
Is this after GameStop bought Electronics Boutique or before?
Before.
Okay, so at least there was competition.
Yeah, but they were all competing, like, literally right on top of each other.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I mean, and Funko Land, was GameStop, so
Yeah.
it's just a different name.
Yeah, so it was just a big clusterfuck until GameStop owned all of it, and then they were like, all right, let's close a few of these.
Yeah, and now they're running out of money.
Can you imagine like some of like the death stares that these employees gave each other? And motherfucker, I'll open at 9. How about that? I'll open at 9 instead of 10.
Oh God.
9. I'll open at 8.
Yeah. Everybody's parking spots getting stolen and shit. Like there must have been some serious like seething going on.
Oh, it had to have been. Why you shaking fist?
Yeah.
Like Farnsworth.
Prank calls.
Wernstrom. Oh God. Joe, do you remember if there was like any kind of arcade scene out there?
There was Time Out, like in the late 90s, but
R.I.P.
outside of that, I mean there was Sports Plus, which was this now as a Whole Foods, but at the time it was this giant arcade, like ice skating rink, bowling alley combo kind of thing, and they had all of the kind of like early 2000s, late 90s, like Sega arcade games, like Virtua Cop and Daytona and all Crazy Taxi and all that kind of stuff.
God bless.
And
now it's just like,
gone.
It's avocado toast to order.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I think about like, do I want to like, maybe I can open up like a barcade or something like that. Like I don't really see myself as a business owner, but I always think like this is a spot that's, sorely missing a barcade or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything? So there's nothing in your area that like that?
No.
Where would the closest one be? Like Queens or Manhattan?
Yeah.
Manhattan?
Yeah, definitely.
I know there's a barcade in Brooklyn.
There might be something out in Nassau County, but either way, you're still going out at least an hour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least like you have barcade and you have some of these retro shops opening, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's important for the community too, because the retro gaming community really is very much bonded. I feel there's a lot of people that are sticking together. Like I know our up this way, the local shop does like swap meets. Once every few months they'll shut the store down at 8:00 and open it up to people that are literally just getting together, trading, selling to each other. The store doesn't do any business. It's all about just people like you and I, interacting with each other, making friends, meeting new people, and just building a community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty amazing.
And it's growing.
It is.
It's tough too, because if you're not really on top of like keeping up with the communities and like Facebook groups and stuff like that, there's really no way to know any of it's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of like it's out there, but at the same time, it's still kind of hidden. You do have to be, you have to know somebody, or you have to be liking or following something to kind of like expand into that realm.
Right. So I'm looking at our notes here, and Will has something here about a backlog, and he alluded to some kind of backlog in an Instagram post yesterday as well too.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you have some sort of a massive backlog of games that you're trying to get through.
Yeah, I
A very over-exaggerated backlog.
yeah, that was definitely not my actual collection in that picture.
Some people thought it was, I think.
Yeah, no,
I just want to
mine's
know
all
how
in
the hell
bins.
you... I mean, if it was your collection, like, holy shit, your floor, it must be like... You have to be very careful. Because you're going to bust some boxes up.
Yeah, no, I try to keep it all hidden away. But yeah, I guess I don't know that I have a crazier backlog than the typical gamer, but I would say like the more games that you try to play, or like, you know, if I probably play more than the average person, but that just means that I have more games that I'm interested in. So my backlog kind of just expands. It's sort of like an endless thing. Like if I played more than I played now, I'd probably be interested in 10 or 15 more games that I don't know about right now because I just don't have like the mental capacity for it.
Yeah, it's like you said, like you play games and you beat them, but at the same time they could just continually grow. Whereas with me and Drew, we play 20 minutes and then they just keep growing. So it's like it's even worse for us.
Yeah, I'm really trying to get better about like beating the games I have before I move on to the next one, and it's been a struggle for me. But I like the way you put it, though. It's just like you just have an interest in more games, so just by proxy, the backlog is going to grow.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, so I'm constantly getting like this deluge of recommendations of games that just sound so cool when, you know, somebody who's, you know, very good at describing them. You know,
So what are some of the other podcasts that you listen to?
Probably like my longest running favorite is the Giant Bomb Bombcast. And they have two podcasts now, so they also have the Beastcast, which is like their East Coast version. I listen to both of those. And then Waypoint, which is the Vice gaming website. I listen to their podcast. They're really good if you want to really kind of get a critical look at games, like maybe even more than you were expecting. Like, oh, you know, this game that seems great, that I love, also has a whole bunch of really shitty gender issues that I never really considered. Like that kind of stuff, like social justice sort of stuff. They really get into it and like make you think about games in a different way.
That's interesting.
And then there's the Kotaku has a podcast as well, Split Screen, that I like.
Okay.
Those are the major ones.
That's a cool title.
A Split Screen?
Split Screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Took me and Drew about 1 year, I think, to come up with a title.
Yeah, and our name is Dumb. I'm like, I don't know what Will and Drew's gaming retrospective.
Yeah, it's like a fucking high school essay.
Yeah, and you don't even have to worry about like the cease and desist letter necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We did avoid that, at least for now. So, you've been part of the industry in your own way as well, Joe, haven't you?
Yeah, for a few years I was a freelancer. I kind of did it on the side. You know, I still had like a 9-to-5 job going, but on the side I did freelance for GameZone.com, which is actually still around. A lot of the friends I made there I don't think they really work there anymore, but
Oh my god, I totally forgot about GameZone.
But yeah, I did that for several years actually. You know, went to like industry events like Penny Arcade Expo and New York Comic Con, and then, you know, there would be stuff in New York City like, you know, we're showing our game behind closed doors. Can you come out? That kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, so
That must have been fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What were some of like the coolest things that you saw?
I mean, I think one of the things is when you're writing for like a small site like that and you're doing it on the side, and you kind of like take what you can get.
Yeah.
You know, so I've seen some really cool things. I actually was at the premiere of BioShock Infinite.
Ooh.
Which that's probably the biggest thing that I was at.
And a big game for you too, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a great game. But then there'd be other stuff, like there was some Heroes, like the TV series Heroes. There was a spin-off game that came out like years after the show was on, I think.
Yeah.
And just you get invited to this event and you get to play the game, and you have to kind of like, that was actually kind of a cool game, but there you get into a lot of situations where you have to like talk to the developers or like a PR person about a game that you didn't really like what you played of it. So that can be kind of interesting.
Is this like a beta still? No, it's the final version. Okay. All right.
So no patches to, clear up these bugs, huh? Nope.
Yeah, I mean, it's even worse than that, because a lot of the time it's like you understand that there's going to be some graphical bugs and stuff like that, but when the game's like, oh, I can see what you're ripping off and you're not doing a very good job, and it's like fundamentally just not going to be a hit. It's like, all right, well, let me just ask you some of these base questions and we'll go from
generic stuff.
Or what would happen to me a lot was I would get stuck with, not stuck with, but I would have to kind of play off of this guy, Hip Hop Gamer, which was this another, I think he works for Hot 97, like the radio station, but they have like a game column on their website.
Okay.
And he's this very like loud, like really outspoken, like really from the heart gamer person who gives these like really out of control interviews where he asks like like the like almost like the kid at the lunch table like lying to you about something in a game that isn't true, like those kinds of like over dramatic questions to these developers, and then you have to follow up and you're like, I know I shouldn't ask anything like that, but now I have to follow.
That kid definitely existed in like every cafeteria.
Yeah.
Oh god, the stories used to hear about like Mortal Kombat, none of it was true.
Yeah.
But people would just make shit up because they could and they can get away with it, and that game was so outlandish anyhow.
Dude, there's a boss after Goro.
Yeah, or remember Shenlong? That whole thing?
Oh,
Street Fighter?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Will?
I do remember that, actually, yeah. That was totally a myth, right?
100%. It was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, it was the EGM, right?
EGM.
And the amount of people that probably tried, too, like countless fucking hours.
I fucking bought it. Like, I legitimately believed it for years. But I was like, when that came out, like, I was a kid.
Drew pulled like an Eddie Bravo, Joe.
What?
I'll explain that later.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some background on that one. So, Will, should we? Did you have any other questions, or should we get to the lightning round?
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to touch up on like your experience with VR. I know that you're one of the few people that I know in my personal life that has dabbled with PSVR, to be exact. Like, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I got it like I was one of the like early adopter PSVR people. There was the Oculus Rift and the Vive at the same time, but didn't have a powerful gaming PC, so the PSVR was definitely appealing, and I wanted to try VR. And I had the Gear VR for the Samsung phones because they just give those away. Mm-hmm. So I got to kind of get a little bit of an experience with it at first. So I was like, this seems really cool. I'd like to see what like a real version of it is. So picked up the PSVR, and it's been like an off and on thing. It's always like this kind of nightmare to set up, because even if you have like the most convenient setup for it, you're still going to end up unplugging everything, plugging everything back in, like making sure everything's configured properly. There's always some little thing that keeps you from just like throwing the headset on your head and diving into a game.
So there's tweaking.
Unfortunate. Yeah. And I can't even leave it hooked up because if you do, and I don't know if this has been fixed with the newer models, but for me, at least once per session, if you leave it hooked up, the TV screen will just go black for like a few seconds and then come back on.
Huh. That's weird.
Which is not great. If you're playing online games, and especially if that TV is your fiance's TV and she's yelling at you from the other room because the PSVR knocked out her Destiny game in the middle of a Crucible match.
Ooh, yeah, that'll light some fires.
Yeah, so I get in trouble for leaving that plugged in.
That's not good.
But there have been a few games that have really been great on it. Like Resident Evil 7 was like an incredible game, and I played it beginning to end in VR. Like I wouldn't even touch it outside of VR, to be honest.
You're a brave man, sir.
I know a lot of people played it like the regular way, but it was VR a bust for me.
Yeah.
How many times
why
did you
not
shit
run
yourself?
the risk of exactly. Why not run the risk of shitting down your leg?
Oh man, yeah, that was intense because, I mean, that was like a different level of horror from other games. I always consider horror games like kind of, a really good test. Like I love horror movies, but I don't think they're nearly as scary as a game is, because you have control in a game and you have to choose to push forward.
You're a part of it.
Yeah. And in that game, it was like a whole new level of scares because there were things where like, you're getting chased and like I didn't actually have someone breathing down my neck, but I felt like they were right behind me chasing me. And it was, because you have the 3D audio going on as well. So I've got this guy right behind me chasing me down, and you have like a split second to dive into some like cellar or something, and you definitely get that sense of like, oh, you just made it out of there alive, and that's like really creepy.
I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit of a chill while you were saying.
I did too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did playing it. I got like goosebumps.
Oh,
can
for
imagine.
Sure. Can you imagine PT in VR, Joe?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that's a thing, is it?
No, but can you imagine if it was?
No, I don't.
Because I consider that demo the most terrifying demo/game ever.
I think the PT demo is just as effective as Resident Evil 7 in VR, which is like really saying something because VR is like a whole different level of immersion.
Did you play PT, Drew?
No, I did not.
Okay, we'll have to link them up, Joe, at some point.
I never heard of it until I think the last time we got together, Will. You were telling me about it.
I did, yeah.
Will, do you have PT installed on your PS4 still?
Dude, I am... Tragically enough, I was one of those people that had it and deleted it.
Okay. I have a backup on a hard drive that I think I can restore it. Hopefully.
Oh, dude.
But
yeah, if there's a way I can get it from you, I don't know why I'm so eager to get it from you, but I want to experience like watching other people play it and I have, like my best friend Tom, he played it and we played it just kind of openly in his living room, and he was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Like and I was like, I'm telling you, man, this game is truly frightening.
Yeah, it's messed up, and it messes with you in some really clever ways.
Yeah.
Maybe I could just watch like a demo, like but not play it.
You could.
Yeah, it's a very hard game to play now because you have to have somebody who still has it installed on their PS4.
Right. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, you're better off.
We're going to move on to, I think, our last segment of the show from here. And this is something we did with our first interview. And apologies to Vic. For some reason or another, we just completely forgot about it when he interviewed with us. But it's something that we'd like to do, I think, on a regular basis. And that's a lightning round. And the goal here, Joe, is to have you respond. We're going to give you questions. Some of them are very broad, like the name of a game or a broad kind of thing, and some of them are very specific, either or. And your goal is to answer these questions as directly and as simply as possible, as quickly as possible. Okay. There's no wrong answer, except for the ones that are wrong. So,
and it could be a thought too.
So this is trivia as well.
No, not trivia. It's all, kind of like personal feelings, personal opinions. Okay. It's all opinion. It's all opinion. Just if your opinion's wrong, then it's a wrong answer. That's all. But so Will and I will go back and forth. We each have our own list of items. There's 20 total.
All right.
And yeah, are you ready for the lightning round?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right, Will, would you like to start us off?
Here we go. All right. So in 3, 2, 1, Asura or Akuma?
Asura.
Nintendo or Sega?
Sega.
Destiny or Halo?
Destiny.
Sony or Microsoft?
Sony.
PSVR or Oculus?
PSVR.
Saturn or Dreamcast?
Saturn.
Monitor or TV?
TV.
Doom or Halo?
Doom?
They're getting
really
tougher.
Hard. That's hard.
So we got headset or speakers?
Headset.
Mario or Sonic?
Mario at this point.
Monster Hunter?
Yes. What?
Think of a word to describe it.
Yeah.
Dense, but great.
That's 3 words.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Dense but great. Princess Peach or Princess Toadstool?
Peach.
Dark Souls?
The best.
This is a choice of 3.
Okay.
Titan, Warlock, or Hunter?
Oh, Warlock. It's not even a question.
IGN or Easy Allies?
I know Easy Allies is the favorite, probably, but I'm going to go with IGN because I'm more familiar with them.
Okay.
Best controller?
Oh, DualShock 4.
Ooh. Metal Gear or Splinter Cell?
God damn it. Splinter Cell.
Best portable system?
Best portable. The Vita.
Battlefield or Call of Duty?
Do I have to answer? I shouldn't have to answer. You should just know.
Yes, you have to answer.
Okay, Battlefield.
And finally, best console?
Damn. 360.
Okay. So, Joe, one more thing that we haven't gotten to. We kind of dipped our toes in the water, but you have a website.
Yes.
Tell us a little about that site, please.
That's something that started out. It was actually a column in my college newspaper that I broke out into its own website and just have been maintaining ever since, off and on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's called Red Ring Circus. It was based on the 8 Xbox 360s I went through.
Oh, that's painful.
Clever name, man.
And yeah, it's just, my own personal blog and feelings, and I try to get to it as much as I can, but full-time job gets in the way more than I'd like, and I recently put out a good bit of content, top 10 movies, top 10 games for 2018, so there's some recent stuff there, but I can't promise that there will be a ton of new stuff going forward, but I will try my best.
Well,
I love your logo, by the way. As somebody who's been through 4 Xbox 360s.
Oh, man.
I can identify.
Thank you.
Well, try to keep it up, Joe, because I think that, I have always enjoyed your articles and reading them. And my friend Tom is an avid reader of all of your stuff. So you have a couple fans out there.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
And that's redringcircus.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. How about social media? If somebody wants to get in touch with you on social media, how can they do that?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JoeDonuts.
Okay. How'd you come up with that name?
I don't know.
Former donut shop owner.
Nice. You have to fill me in on that.
Wasn't it like a Joey bag of donuts? Like it was I don't.
It was totally like that. It actually started out. A friend bought me a Something Awful forum account, and he named it Joey Donuts. And so I was stuck with that. And I just rolled with it after that. But Joey Donuts is always taken on anything, but Joe Donuts is a little bit easier to get.
Yeah,
I like it.
And there is a donut shop called JoeDonuts somewhere, and I constantly get tagged in it on Instagram.
It's in like Nebraska.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm looking at your Instagram page here, and you have like handwritten notes on Tetris Effect.
Oh yeah. That's something I started, sort of like for this year. I got like a little journal to kind of write at, like do some handwritten reviews with some little drawings and doodles and stuff. Just something, because like I find that sometimes I don't find the time to write a full review of something, and otherwise I'm keeping track of just a list, like an Excel, like a spreadsheet sort of a thing of what I play, but I don't really like write anything in it. So you look back on what you've played and you go, oh, I played that, and like I don't even remember playing that, and I don't have any thoughts on it, and that that kind of sucks. So I want to like kind of make an effort to at least write a paragraph or two about any game I play, and that way I can always go back to it and be like, oh, that's what I thought about that at the time. That's pretty cool.
I think that's a really cool idea, man. Like I feel like it's almost it reminds me of maybe something that Joe Rogan would do, or like a comic. Like when they think of something, they just write it down. And it's like they always keep something nearby, because it helps you almost build a review versus having to kind of sit there and be like, all right, like, and then you suffer from writer's block sometimes.
Yeah, and
it prevents that.
It's a different thing to just write out something just beginning to end, because when you're typing it out, I'm always constantly editing, like I'm rereading it from the top like over and over again and just tweaking sentences and stuff. But when you just have to write it out all in one go and try to make as few mistakes as possible, otherwise it's going to look really stupid. It's a totally different way of like constructing your thoughts.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to kind of get back in touch with, there's something tangible about analog that I think just gets lost in transition to digital.
Yeah.
Pen to paper is just a different experience, and I think a more wholesome experience in typing.
It really is. I mean, when I wrote those notes for about Grease, like I really felt inspired to actually do like a written review on it, which I still will do.
Mm-hmm. It's cool too, because people like lose their mind when you share that online. It's like one of those things. I don't know. Like every one of those that I've shared, at least one developer on the game like says, "Oh, like thank you for writing this. This is so cool."
That's
awesome.
Cool.
Which like then gives me the chance to say like, "No, thank you for making that game," which is always cool.
Really digging this Bomberman shirt, by the way, too.
Oh.
Unrelated to
Thank you. Thank my fiance for that.
It's lovely. I'm a big Bomberman fan.
Joe has the best gaming shirts.
Yeah,
I do have quite the collection.
I'm kind of stalking you on Instagram right now. So
just going back and
Joe,
liking posts from like a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that much of a creep, but anyway. So JoeDonuts on Twitter, on Instagram, redringcircus.com for all things written. Joe, thank you for taking some time out of your day to sit down and chat with us, man. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Hopefully get to have you on board again sometime soon. And we'll sit down and talk a little bit more, maybe something a little bit more current as far as gaming goes, or just shoot the shit, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Part 2.
Hopefully I'm playing more than just Spyro at the time.
Will, if somebody wants to follow you, how can they do so?
Will_gear.
If you'd like to follow me personally, you can do so at ScionStorm. And don't forget to check us out on social media at WDGRPodcast. That's on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter at WDGRPodcast. Hit us up on our main hub at WDGRPodcast.libsyn.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play. Anywhere you download your podcast, you can find us there. And hey, folks, we just opened up a brand new Discord room this week. If you'd like to chat with us, talk about episodes, we're trying to build a nice community here where we can have a group of people get together, play games together. So come in, join the fun. I'll put the link in the show notes for that as well, too. And come on by and say hello.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in the room so far. And I'm really excited to have everybody on board, and we hope that you'll join us in there as well, too. So thank you, everybody who's subscribing and listening to the show. Be sure you share our posts, or I'll yell at you personally. And yeah.
Or we'll send you a really mean fax.
We'll send you a really, really mean fax.
A really mean one.
As soon as Will gets that paper.
Yeah.
Joe, one more time, thanks for being a part of the show today.
Thank you
Thanks, man.
so much for having me.
No problem, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Say goodbye, Joe.
Bye-bye.